Incredible news for the Rossoneri as Milan chairman Paolo Scaroni comes out and reveals that AC Milan is about to turn a profit for the first time in 17 years. The chairman also believes that the current ownership of Jerry Cardinal and Redbird are on the same path as the ownership of the late great Silvio Berlusconi, while Milan and Charles De Ketelaere seem to be moving on different paths, as the Belgians' move to Atalanta seems to be on the verge of completion. The Rossoneri and Fenerbahce seem to be getting themselves in a bit of a love triangle, or more like a love square. As Fenerbahce tries to sign Rade Krunic, Milan picks Nicolas Dominguez as his replacement, and then Fenerbahce decides to make an offer for Dominguez. Stefano Pioli confuses Milan fans by saying that he wants to play Tiani Reinders as a defensive midfielder. We'll see where Reinders actually fits on this graph in Plot the Official Moves, and these are some of the profiles that we're going to be looking at in today's episode of Rumor or Real. As addressed in the previous video, no matter how much of an effort Charles De Ketelaere made to impress Stefano Pioli in this summer tour, it just didn't work. He was never going to be part of the plans. Considering the signings that Milan has made now, it pushes him down further and further in the pecking order. And more importantly, there's not much of a role, not much of a position left for him. Milan doesn't plan on playing the 4-2-3-1. They're going with the 4-3-3. That leaves Charles De Ketelaere completely out in the mud. So a move away makes complete sense. And up until now, it looked like it's going to be Lens or PSV making that move, but suddenly Atalanta comes into the mix. And without a doubt, they seem to be the most reasonable place for Charles De Ketelaere to go. He's still going to stay in the Serie A. Atalanta just lost Højlund. They need a player to fit in that attacking role. They just completed the signing of Gianluca Scamacca, so they're clearly building something pretty decent there. Gasperini has that knack of getting the best out of young attackers, young unknown players, so that fits CDK perfectly. Financially, it benefits Milan as well. They're going to get 3 million on that loan, so apparently, in order for Milan to be able to break even on the player and not incur any type of a capital loss, they needed to sell the player this mercato at around that 28 million mark. But by completing a 3 million loan with a 23 million buy option next summer, plus saving on the player's salary this entire season, a sale next summer at that price will actually get Milan a capital gain of around 1.7 million euros. So a move that clearly didn't work. The player only had 1 assist the entirety of the season. If Milan can cut their losses and actually get a capital gain, I feel like it's not too bad a proposition. Now, there are a couple things that I want to point out about the whole CDK situation. First of all, I do want to compliment Milan's management a little bit. If we look at some of the past profiles, one of the biggest critiques of Paolo Maldini, Ricky Massara, and their management was that they didn't actually cash out on players at the right time. They gave things too much time, waited too late to get certain things done. You look at the Donnarumma situation. They could have possibly sold him maybe even north of 100 million. They didn't. It went to the last minute, lost a player for free. And we can go through that with Çalhanoğlu and Franck Kessie, but that was their main criticism. I feel like this management deserves a little bit of a compliment for actually pulling the trigger on this thing. They didn't wait too long. They didn't try to be overly patient. Let's give this guy another season for no reason. They said, you know what? We've seen enough. 1 assist. He's not fitting into the coach's plans. He's not part of the plans for the future because of the formation we plan on playing. We don't need to be the good guys. Let's find a financial proposition that actually works for everybody involved and quickly try to offload this player, not wait for another season to see what happens. So they're actually, I think they do deserve a compliment. At the same time, there's one concern I have. So CDK, who's a central attacking midfielder, doesn't get any position. It doesn't get any play time because Milan goes into a 4-3-3 formation. Then what does Christian Pulisic do? Where's he gonna fit exactly? At this point in time, guys, it might be crazy to say it, and you guys let me know in the comment section if you agree with that. I don't think Christian Pulisic is a starter on this team. I'm just looking at the position, the formation, and the players available. I don't think Pulisic starts. Now, with the CDK deal, it doesn't look like there's gonna be a buyback option for Milan, but reportedly right now, they do get a 10% return on any future sale of this player. And seeing how Atalanta sell their players, Højlund signed for 15, 17 million, sold for north of 80 million, maybe Milan can get a little bit of cash for CDK in the future. CDK away from Milan, completely real, a move that makes complete sense to me, quite honestly, for all parties concerned. Now, after my AC Milan transfers tier list video, where I put out that maybe Milan should consider making a move away from Simon Kjaer, a lot of you guys in the comment section didn't really agree with that position, but from the looks of it now, it looks like Milan also kind of agrees with that. There have been some reports that Milan are okay letting Simon Kjaer go. Will that actually happen or not is not fully clear because there's not a push from Simon Kjaer's side to actually move away, and there's actually not even a push from Milan to force a sale for this player. But there's some understanding think that with the Euros coming next season and Stemon Kjaer wanting to be a part of Denmark's squad for that, he might want some regular play time. And if there's a possibility that he doesn't get that here, he might seek that somewhere else. But from the looks of it right now, there's no movement on this, but Milan are open to a move away for Kjaer. The player that they have looked at to fill in the center back role with the departure of Gabi and possibly that of Kjaer is Maxime Esteve. Now, Esteve is one of those Moncada discoveries. A lot of people who may be new fans of AC Milan don't actually know who Jeffrey Moncada is. He's pretty much the head recruiter, scout, whatever you want to call him, of this club. And this guy's resume, I mean, the main player from this guy's resume is actually Kylian Mbappe. He was a scout at Monaco. He actually recruited Mbappe to Monaco back then. So this is a scout, a recruiter whose judgment is very well respected. And Maxime Esteve is one of his picks. He's 21 years old, made 23 appearances last season. The only concern that Milan seem to be having with this player is that if he's a fourth choice center back for the Rossoneri, they believe that his price tag of 6 to 7 million might be a little too expensive, and they're a little bit reluctant on spending that money. Now, the player that Milan apparently is looking at for the center back role is Clement Lenglet of Barcelona. This player was at loan at Tottenham. I think he did play against Milan in the Champions League. And this is one of those things. Milan plays these players in the Europa League or the Champions League. They start scouting them and they start to realize that, hey, maybe this is a player that we can add to our squad. It happened with Jens Petter Auga when Milan played against Bodo Glimt. It happened with Noah Okafor when Milan played Salzburg last season. So this time around, Milan is looking at Lenglet of Barcelona, but the price tag once again is a bit of a hitch for the Rossoneri. Barcelona are apparently asking for around 10 million for this player, which makes the profile of Maxime Esteve a little bit more financially reasonable at that 6 to 7 million mark. So for now, in my opinion, Clement Lenglet to Milan, I think that's more, I think it's just unlikely. Maxime Esteve to Milan, I think it's possible. But right now, it does look like Milan is really not focusing on the center back role. They're just trying to figure out some departures and more their midfield squad right now. And speaking of Rade Krunic, here's where we basically stand, guys. So Krunic came out to the Milan management and said it simply. He said, pay me or sell me. And that's about as fair as Krunic can be. As I listed out here, these are the players who are making more money than Rade Krunic last season. And the type of availability and performance that Krunic was putting in, it does feel like it's a little bit unfair that this guy's only getting paid 1.1 million while all these other players are getting paid more than him. Now, the signings that Milan has made with Tiani Reinders, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, with Yunus Musa, the availability of Ismail Benacer eventually, it looks like it's pushed Rade Krunic lower and lower in the pecking order. So this player feels like he's not going to get a lot of play time and he's not also going to get a lot of money. So he might as well watch out for his own benefit and make a move away from the club. Now, the thing with Fenerbahce was, I believe their initial offer was 4 million. They may have then increased it to about 7 million. At that 4 million mark, Milan was looking for something at least triple of that offer. The club's price tag was around that 13 to 15 million mark for Krunic. The latest reports suggest Milan has now lowered that to around 10 million. And there's a possibility that Fenerbahce would be ready to meet that price tag. But there's some rumbling, there's some reports that are suggesting that Milan might actually be open to paying the player more. They might just want to hold on to him. He's clearly a Pioli favorite. Just give him a little bit more cash. He's not going to get the 3 million that Fenerbahce is offering him, but the Rossoneri could probably bring that a little bit closer to that figure. And for me, guys, Rade Krunic being sold to Fenerbahce, making move away from Milan, I think right now it's very confusing. I think at this point in time, I'm in the possible camp. I think if the Turkish clubs offers anywhere 10 million plus, I think Milan will accept it. Now, the player that the Rossoneri are apparently interested in is Nicolas Dominguez of Bologna, but that whole situation became so much more complicated when there are reports suggesting that Fenerbahce made an offer to Bologna for Nicolas Dominguez for around 13 million. I don't think Nicolas Dominguez comes to Milan if Krunic doesn't leave. But if Krunic leaves, Dominguez to Milan is absolutely a possibility. So for now, for me, Krunic away from Milan, possible. Dominguez to Milan, if that happens, is also possible. Which brings us to plotting some of the official moves that Milan has made. We're going to be looking at a couple of profiles in today's episode. So there are basically 4 sections to this graph. Ideally, you want to be somewhere over here. These are important moves that push us to the next title. If a player plays somewhere over here, it's not much of an important move, but it possibly does push us towards the next title. A move placed on the left side of this graph is probably not an ideal one for the club. And first, it's going to be right here of Tiani Reinders. Reinders is one of those moves that I'm probably going to place somewhere over here on this graph. I think this is one of those European under the radar football moves that a lot of people haven't noticed, but once they see this player play, they're going to take high note of this signing. I think throughout the entirety of these friendlies, Tiani Reinders has been one of the most impressive players that we've seen on the field. He's fitting so comfortably with the squad. He looks good. His attacking presence seems to have so much versatility to it. He can pass the ball. He can take shots. He's got the right vision to execute. I think this might be one of the top 2 signings that Milan has made throughout the entirety of the Mercato. My only concern concern now becomes is Stefano Pioli, and something that we've heard him say recently. Apparently, he said that he plans on playing Thierry Reinders as more of a defensive midfielder, which we desperately hope is not what's going to happen. We cannot have this coach signing these players, selling them some type of a role at this club, which we assume that Thierry Reinders was told he was an attacking midfielder because that's what he said in his interview, that he likes to attack and play up front. It would be ridiculous if Stefano Pioli is calling these guys, telling them they're going to play in those roles once they sign them, telling them, hey, do you want to play a defensive midfielder instead? But in plotting the official moves, this is where Thierry Reinders sits. And the other profile we're going to look at here is that of Christian Pulisic. Now, I have to look at this in an all-encompassing manner. I have to consider the financial impact that Pulisic will have on this team, the amount of eyes he's going to bring, the American eyes that he's going to bring on this squad. On the field, as already addressed in this video, if a 4-3-3 is being played out, where does Christian Pulisic play? Is he the official backup player for Rafael Leao? A player that we absolutely need a backup for? I'm not sure. To me, on this graph, I'm going to place Christian Pulisic somewhere over here. I do think a lot of the signings that Milan has made in this Mercato, they do help us move towards our next title. And in the level of importance, I have to place it a little bit high because if we have a quality backup for Rafael Leao, that offers Leao the right amount of rest to actually be able to be consistently explosive throughout the entirety of the season over 3 different competitions. So I think Pulisic is an important move, and I think it absolutely helps us towards our next trophy. Well, there you have it, guys. Those are the profiles we wanted to look at today for the first time in 17 years. This is the most important statistic from the entire video. First time in 17 years, this club turns a profit. And that's not from the sale of Sandro Tonali or something, guys. This is from the previous fiscal year. It's from the competition prize money, the updated sponsorship deals, the new contracts that Milan has. And in the long run, in the construction of the new stadium, this is a highly, highly important factor. A financially responsible Milan, a financially successful Milan is a long-term successful Milan. This is something I've been crying about since I started this channel. And to actually watch this growth of the club happen while making this content is incredible to see. And for that reason, and as always, Forza Milan, grazie mille e ciao tutti!